Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Wilson, and today I am really excited to welcome Amber Countis to the People in Fundraising weekly webcast series. Hi, Amber.
Hi, Tim. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you as well. Thank you for your time today. It's a Friday afternoon, and right before the holiday season, hence my little Christmas tree there. Um, Amber and I knew each other when she served on the New England Development Research Association, NEDRA, Board of Directors. And in 2015, I was a candidate, a nominee for that board, and Amber and I had a phone call about what I thought I could bring to the board. And since then, last 7 years, you've moved on from NEDRA. You had a lot of exciting roles, and you've now been at your current role for the last 2 months as the Vice President of Advancement and External Relations at the University of Houston, Victoria. So how has that new opportunity been so far?
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind in a lot of ways. I have really, I think for me, the biggest challenge has just been getting here and getting settled. So hopefully we'll be in a new home very soon and getting that part of my life settled. But, it's really been interesting getting to learn about my new institution. UHB is, we're at about 4,100 students right now. So small public regional institution here in Texas. We're part of the University of Houston system, one of 4 campuses, part of that system. And to me, one of the interesting things about it, and kind of was one of the things that was really pulling me to come here, is that the school will celebrate its 50th anniversary next year. So in terms of, tenure, it's a baby institution. And then on top of that, for majority of the time that the institution existed, it was only a 2-year school. So students would go to community college, do those first 2 years, and then come here for that junior senior experience. And then in 2009, so even younger, they did downward expansion and became a full 4-year institution. So coming from my background and where we crossed paths from that prospect research, donor, prospect pool, alumni pool, it was really interesting to me to think about how young the institution was and then the different experiences that alumni had here. And so a lot of our history and fundraising and support has been more of that community engagement, because our alums are so young in their careers in many ways. And so really trying to build that partnership with those outside of the institution too has been a big part of my predecessors and certainly what I'm trying to do. So not only am I trying to get to know a new institution and how to process those mileage reimbursements and fun things, but also trying to get out and meet, Chamber of Commerce, the city leadership, what institutions and nonprofits in this community are very influential and partners with the work that we're trying to do. So a lot to learn. I'm still learning, but so far so good. And I'm really enjoying the opportunity to kind of spread my wings and try a lot of things that I never thought I would do. So really, my background, I didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated from college, but I'd done a lot of volunteer work. And so someone suggested that nonprofits, would be a place for me to go. And so I started in the development area, working with a really great boss who wanted me to do a little bit of everything. And so I did. And, I really loved when I got into a role at a hospital. I was doing prospect research and grant writing, and that was really my first exposure to the research side of it. And I said, this is fun. You're a little bit investigator and learning a lot. You're like a mini expert. Every day is a new adventure. You could be looking at a millionaire, a billionaire. You could be looking at, artwork and horses and all sorts of stuff. And so that really exposed me to a lot of things that I hadn't had the opportunity to do before. And then due to a crazy thing called Hurricane Katrina, my husband and I decided to kind of uproot our lives from New Orleans and move and moved to the Northeast, and he had extended family there, and so we were able to kind of make it to New Hampshire in the Boston area and have some experiences there, which I feel really grateful for those opportunities, because otherwise I wouldn't have had the NEDRA experience. I wouldn't have met super smart folks like yourself that really challenged me and have been good colleagues and have helped me to think about things in a way that I hadn't before. And so I'm really, grateful for that opportunity to kind of experience different part of the country, different institutions, and really, I've now been in higher ed for about 19 years, but the majority of that has been at at private institutions. And so when we made the decision that New England had been fun, but we were really Southerners at heart and had to get back to the South because the winters were too cruel. We started looking at the South again and Texas. And so now I've worked, this is my second public institution, and it's a whole new world, very different from what I was used to. And, you have to think about things like, Board of Regents approving naming opportunities, and you've got legislative budgets and things that are much more important to what you're doing versus the philanthropic piece of it. So it's really been a very interesting a challenge and movement over the last 4 years, but I'm excited, and I really owe a lot to kind of the people and the institutions that I've worked with and worked for over the years to where I am today. So
That's terrific, Amber. And I have a couple of follow-on questions, one of which you already have ahead of time. But that's just a really rich overview of your career, almost 20 years in higher education, and had moved to different regions of the country. So my first question is, given that you've worked in Texas, Vermont, Louisiana, Massachusetts, and such, in addition to the strong skill set and the personality that you bring as a professional, and when you were a prospective employee, being interviewed for roles outside of the state that you were working in at the time, in terms of building up your case as a candidate, was there ever a time when a hiring committee is like, well, you've lived in these diverse states, and how do you think you would fit with the culture of Vermont or Massachusetts? So talk to us about maybe some adaptability, or just any strengths in a soft skill way that made your answer convincing, again, beyond the attributes you bring to the day-to-day job.
Well, and I think a former boss said to me once, like, you're brave and you're a risk taker. And I never really would have ever described myself that way or really thought that was true. But, because it was mostly often these kind of external reasons why, we made the choice to go to a different part of the country. So, but I think, for me, really, and it's true till today, a big part of what I offer and what I take pride in is really that I'm someone that's really loyal. If I come to your institution, I'm gonna, try to wear your school colors. I'm gonna be the person at the football games that's cheering, even if I didn't go to school there. Like, I'm someone that really wants to become part of the community. And so I think that maybe has helped me. And so again, I'm all in. If I'm going to an institution, I want to understand what it's all about. I want to go see the speakers. I want to go see the plays. I want to go see all the stuff that the students are doing. And now it's even more important, now that I'm in a more external role and I'm out trying to make the case to donors and institutions about why they should support us. I need to know, what are those amazing things that are happening in the classroom and that our students are doing. So for me, it's really trying to be community is just a big part of who I am. And so really wanting to be committed to these institutions, and because I believe that, as corny as it may sound, I believe that education is, a potential game changer and transformational for people. And I want everyone that wants to have that college experience to have it. And I know it's not meant for everyone, and you may not need it for the career you want, but if you want it, I want it, you to be available to you. And especially these two, my last two institutions here in Texas, we've really, we have a lot of first generation students, a very diverse demographic. I learned about something in Texas that certainly didn't exist in Louisiana, and that, HSI, Hispanic Serving Institutions. So, we're really working with students that, this is a really transformational opportunity before them. So we want to make it as beneficial and college ready, and that they're ready to go out into that workforce. So for me, I think it's really trying to be, part of the fabric of the institution, really trying to understand my colleagues, really. And now, again, being more in a role where I'm working with, alumni, donors, et cetera, really trying to build those relationships. And for me, it has to be authentic. I'm not the life of the party, outspoken kind of personality. I'm much more of an introvert by nature. So I want to get to know you one-on-one. I want to really learn what makes you tick, and why you went to school here, or why you give back here. And I think I've got a track record now that if I gave you people that I'd worked with to talk to, that's what they would tell you. I'm someone that really is a good listener and really tries to be adaptable. It's just been part of my personality. Like, if that's not working, then I'm going to try to find something that will. So I think for me, really the geographic opportunities, and being at different institutions has really made me more marketable, because I can say that I was at Tufts during a $1.2 billion campaign. They had, I think our advancement shop at that time was like 200 people. So I was very specialized in the work that I was doing, but that, you had to learn how to work with everyone, and you had to put yourself out there and figure out how to be, productive and efficient and effective in all that you're doing. And so, and then when I moved to Norwich, smaller institution, but that gave me the opportunity then to broaden my experience and kind of take on some of the advancement services roles that I hadn't done before. So I was able to still do a little research. I started there building really their prospect research team, and then eventually took over advancement services as well. And by the time I left there, I wasn't really doing as much research anymore, So I think I'm able to kind of build on the pieces that I've done before. And that's what's helped me. But since I've been here at UHV, someone said to me, what's your Texas connection? Because there is so much about it. So, I mean, that does put me behind. I haven't lived in Texas all my life. I don't have, these relationships. So it is about leveraging my resources. So that's my other team members, that's our faculty, that's our leadership. Everyone that's been here has relationships. So really trying to get their buy-in, that they're a part of this fundraising piece too. They may not have to make the ask, but I want them to help introduce me to the people that I need to know, or help, be able to thank and celebrate those that are already involved and engaged with the institution. So I don't know. I tend to ramble a lot. So did I get anything there that was relevant to what you asked?
Well, yes, not only did you answer that question, but you actually answered the other question I had, which was, how did you move from prospect research into this broader portfolio? And you mentioned it was a specialized skill set at Tufts. So with that Norwich opportunity, Amber, coming from Tufts, were you looking like deliberately to get a broader portfolio of responsibility? And I know a lot of people in prospect management and research, typically, this is a generalization, move up in terms of title and, managing teams, I don't personally know too many people. I know fewer people, I should say, who have taken opportunities that build upon prospect research and then expand into advancement services, and certainly external relations, where it's a more forward facing.
Yeah.
So you can just talk about that, please.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's been 10 years since I've left Tufts. So, time flies. I was able to get my master's degree while I was working there. So, and there were so many people that are like lifers there, and they have been there for a really long time. And I think that speaks a lot to the culture there. And probably my life would have been simpler if that's the route that I would have wanted. But there was a part of me that wanted to kind of push myself and try to take on new things. And so I was, whether consciously or subconsciously, looking for an opportunity to kind of to grow. And I know I could have stayed at Tufts and probably developed a little bit, but I don't think I would have gotten the opportunity to really go outside my comfort zone as I have. And so I knew really from pretty much day one, the early interviews with folks at Norwich, there was conversation about eventually taking on that advancement services. And again, we're talking small. I think at max I had 6 people on my team. So it wasn't a huge team at Norwich, but it was definitely people doing things that I was not an expert in: gift processing, reports, and all stuff that I was comfortable with working with and had some working knowledge of it. But if you said you've got to do this full time, I would have not been able to. So that challenged me as a manager and as a leader to take on that, when I knew that they were more the experts than me. But it was definitely something that I wanted to do, and it was an opportunity to do it. And I think there was a part of me too that was scared about going to a smaller institution, or that would I be able to move on from there one day. But I think it's the pros and cons, and everyone has to figure out what they want for themselves. But for me, working at a smaller institution has given, and now 3 small, what I would consider smaller institutions, have given me that opportunity to try a lot of different things, and to do a lot of things that I might not have had the opportunity to do otherwise. And I think, yeah, for some people that's not what they want, and they can really become an expert in one area. But I'm someone that I need a little more diversity, or a little more variety, I guess. And so this has been, the path that I'm on for now. Like, just before I came in here, we were working on the 50th anniversary committee, and I'm like, this is so much like event planning and logistics, and definitely stuff that I don't know enough about, So it's really, I think also for me, it pushes me into the teamwork and those cross, for higher ed, those cross campus opportunities where you're really working with folks from faculty, student affairs, athletics, facilities. And so that has helped me, I think, as I've kind of decided more and more that higher ed is really where I want to stay and be. So really getting that broader view of what it takes campus wide to be successful as an institution has been really helpful. And so I'm, for better or for worse, one of those people that when there was something else to do or something that needed to be done, I would often say yes instead of no. And even if I didn't know how to do it, but say I'll figure this out, or I'll find people that know how to do it, and we'll make a plan. And that's what I think, a little bit to go back to our roots. Nedra is really great. I know people I can call and ask how to do these things, and I know just kind of build up those networks and find those mentors and supports that are going to help you figure it out, and maybe I won't do that forever, but it's great to get that experience so that you can speak to it and figure it out if that's what you want to do or not. So trial and error.
Absolutely. And you mentioned in an earlier question and answer, just the different donor pool sizes, I also would imagine that the geographic diversity, institutional diversity has given you a varying prospect pool, either to research, to steward, to cultivate, solicit, both in terms of the numbers in your prospect pool, but also, as you mentioned with UHV, a lot of first generation students turning into alumni and prospective donors as well. So that's got to be a really interesting facet of the career path you had.
Yeah, for sure. And even at Norwich, you know, certainly a lot of the prospect and alumni pool they were working with was in the Boston, you know, New England area. But I mean, we had development officers that had, you know, West Coast portfolios, and, you know, certainly pre-COVID, they were traveling all over Florida, you know, wherever the mass quantities of people were. And then I get to Texas, and I'm working at, you know, a regional institution there. And I mean, the development officers were traveling, but they're traveling primarily around the state of Texas. You know, there wasn't a lot of cross-country flights that were happening. And I mean, that doesn't mean that some weren't. I remember someone had flown out to Oregon right before I started, but that was really few and far between. So it was a lot more, you know, regional based, because there were so many of our audience that was right there. I mean, Texas is a huge state, so, but you know, but that they were really doing a lot of traveling. And then that all changed after the pandemic, and our budget shrunk even more, and there was a lot less travel happening. But yeah, it's been interesting to kind of see how different prospect pools are and donor pools are from place to place. And you know, when I was at Tufts, we were dealing with a lot of hedge fund folks and people that were, you know, able to make really large gifts. And then I get to Norwich, and there was a lot of small business owners, and those were never as exciting to me from the prospect world, but that was sort of their bread and butter. And that was really, you know, those were the folks that had gotten an education and really felt that their lives and their careers had changed because of that, and then gone on to be successful. And it might have looked a little different, but they were loyal, and they were generous, and they were engaged with the institution in a way that, you know, wasn't quite the same if you were, you know, a hedge fund manager or someone in finance in New York City. So, and then here, there's been a lot more, you know, cowboy boots and oil money and things like that. But, you know, like it may be a little different, but, you know, the rules still apply. Like you're still building relationships. You're still talking about what is happening at your institution, and trying to get them engaged and get them to support. So, so a little different, but, you know, the core work is very similar, which is, I think, what makes us all successful. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. We have about 15 minutes, Amber, because I don't want to hold you up from starting your weekend. I did have one question that I haven't asked a guest before, and I hope that's okay. It's one of the questions. It's number 6 on your sheet. You've been very generous at spending time sharing, discussing your career path to date, and both with a new year dawning on us, and, you know, people reflecting and maybe some goal setting, and being in higher ed now for almost 20 years. Same with me. If you were to write a book about your career, how do you hope your career would conclude? And I gave a couple of options. So my dad's worked for 50 years at a state university in Massachusetts on the South Shore, Bridgewater State University. And he's, I mean, officially retired. He does some consulting. He's 78 years old. So he loves it. And so that's, you know, that's one possibility. Or is it just, you know, outright retirement? Is it consulting? Is it that, you know, you, at least now, maybe projecting in the future, you love to work too much to envision a full stop on that part of your life. So how might that book proceed?
Well, I don't know that it's that I love to work too much. It's just that I can't afford to fully retire, especially when I'm in the middle of trying to buy a house. I'm starting to feel really poor, so retirement seems like a pipe dream.
Sure.
One of the things I've always said is that after, now a little over 25 years of working for nonprofits, that one day it would be fun to work for an organization that was giving the money away, like a
Oh, yeah.
foundation or something. So that's always or if I happen to win the lottery and then I can just pick and choose to all of my favorites and get my name on a lot of things. So, but I really think that even if I did fully retire, again, part of just how I've always been, I think I'd probably still be doing a lot of volunteer work, and so doing some still having my hands in this work that we do to one aspect or another. The one of the things that I do like about I guess growing older and getting on different responsibilities, that there is that next generation that comes in and has the energy to to create something and help keep what you started going. And so I just think back to like those Nedra board days and how much work we would do, and it was priceless, and I really enjoyed it and the relationships. But thinking back, like I just get exhausted thinking about that. I can't imagine doing all that now. So finding opportunities, especially in a new town, in a new community, that I can start to get involved, not only to help me professionally, but also just to get that fulfillment that I need outside of the work. And so it's been kind of fun to see some of the, see the Chamber of Commerce, see some of the different organizations in town, and try to figure out where I can sort of plant my flag and get involved at the level that I can get involved at this point
Sure.
in my life. But yeah, I would love to be retired, and maybe a bar by the beach. I could do a little sideline work, but I feel like I'll be doing something one way or the other, for better or for worse. So, but I mean, but then seriously, I mean, for me too, I think it's really, that book hopefully would be about the little bit of impact for the good, hopefully, that I've had at some different institutions and organizations. And then again, the people that have helped me become what I am, and then the people that I'm trying to help. I just had someone reach out to me yesterday asking for a reference, and we haven't worked together in a while, but I was happy to hear from her, and happy to think about that. And so I feel like being able to cultivate a group of my own community, those either that I've worked with, or now that those that I've gotten to know as an alum or donor relationship, those have really been really valuable to me. And even just leaving my last job, it was a whole different experience, because it wasn't just leaving the staff. Now I'm saying goodbye to donors and alums, and those relations. All of them said to me, well, just because you don't work here anymore doesn't mean we're not going to still be friends. And that was really meaningful to me. I hadn't when you're a project researcher, you don't necessarily have those connections. And so having that made it really powerful, and really made me really feel good about where I've been and what I've gotten to do, and kind of given me also the boost that I could take this next step, and that I would have some support and be excited about the relationships that now I'll be building here.
Yeah, well, that's so fulfilling to have
Yeah,
the internal colleagues, long-standing all the way back to Tufts and Nedra, but also to have the external facing part of your roles, where you mentioned, the Board of Regents and Chamber of Commerce and alumni and other donors. Like that's quite a swath of people to interface with. So really
it is.
fulfilling.
It is. And if you'd have known me way back when, and how shy and how nervous I was to really think about me being in this role would have been really surprising. And so it's not always easy. And there's certainly those days where you don't want to talk to anybody. You just like to stay in your little office and get some work done. But I think it's been a good mix of kind of helping me grow, because those are the things that I need to do more of. And but then the benefit of, yeah, you build some really lasting relationships out of it. So it is a win-win.
Absolutely. Yeah, and admittedly, that's kind of, it is one of the reasons why I started this webcast, was to circle back, reconnect with people that had been meaningful and helpful in the early days of my career. And I think I can really relate to you about the introversion and just feeling like, you really want me on the Nedger board? Like, who am I? But I think those experiences have given me more confidence, more commitment, enthusiasm. And then the real benefit, besides the personal or what impacts my life, is having those rich, meaningful connections, friendships with people from across the country now at this point. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have 5 minutes left, Amber. Is there anything you would especially like to share with our audience, leave for us to know about?
I do think I it's part of who I am, but I would just encourage anyone out there to really say yes to those opportunities and not be afraid. One of the things that I love about the nonprofit world, higher ed, is that generally speaking, you're not in it alone. Like, there's someone else that you can call, that even if it's at your organization or not, but that really is gonna make it better. It's gonna make it a better experience. It's gonna make it a better outcome. And so, try to be open to those opportunities, because you never know where it's gonna lead. And again, it's I not to talk about it too much, but the Nedra experience, those opportunities, because I think doing something like that, we had our own little microcosm there, where there was opportunities to do sponsorship, there was opportunities to do conference planning, so all of these things that you can parlay that into your other world, your career, and your other piece if you want to. And it was a safe environment, so you could really explore and try those things, and you had a group of people and a community there that was supportive of everything that you were trying to do. So I would just encourage anyone to reach out. That's one of the other things that I love about this industry that we're in, is that so many smart, friendly, funny people that are willing to take your call and brainstorm and answer questions. And even if you don't know them, I bet most of them will say yes. And so you just have to reach out, and I've had some great conversations with people over the years. I remember talking to someone that she was working more like in employee relations and career services, and she was trying to make that leap to philanthropy. And we were really able to talk about the skills that she had acquired and how it made a lot of sense. And so just don't be afraid, and just say yes, and cultivate your community, whether that's at your job, in your professional networks, or your home and work life too. And then beyond that, just remember to take a break, and that it's not 24/7. There is some time that you need to do that self-care and really make sure that you're taking care of yourself first too. And so I think that's been a lesson for me, especially starting a new job. Like, I want to do it all. I want to be able to figure it all out and have all the answers, and I don't yet. And some days I'm okay with that, and some days I don't. I guilt myself about it, and it's just finding that right balance. So
Sure. And I imagine that with experience and wisdom, it's easier to identify that you need that balance and then actually do something about it, versus, 15, 10 years ago in your career, my career, just sort of that go mentality. But
yeah. And I think, especially there's so many things, there's always something going on, and there's always something that I could be at. And, but, someone asked me about something earlier this week, and it happened to be our wedding anniversary. And I said, I have to say no, like happily, I have to say no. And I think for me personally, it's just about, it's going to be okay. Like that's, even if it was the big donor, everybody, we're people, we're humans, so it's okay. And so sometimes I forget that because I want to make a good first impression, especially right now where I'm still trying to meet and get introduced to people. But just again, it'll be there tomorrow. The person will understand, we all get sick, things come up, so it's okay. Just take it one day at a time, prioritize what needs to happen, and you'll get there. So, but it's certainly easier to say than do. So, but I try.
That's true, and I'm prone to overcommitment, so it's a hard balance for me as well. So yeah, but no, those last 5 minutes have been really enlightening, rich. I love the various takeaways you touched on, Amber. I really want to summarize that when this post goes live, because really beneficial insights and generous of you to share that. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, and it's been great to reconnect with you, and I've loved seeing everything that you're doing with this. And as I said to you before, I feel like you've got a great group of people, and I'm happy to be included in their company. And so thank you for doing this, because I think you're helping, move it forward and pay it forward for others as well. So great work.
Very nice of you to say. Thank you, Amber. That means a lot. And yeah, it is, there is a altruistic side of it. Certainly I hope I'm leading with that, is that it is giving people like you who are generous to share your experience a platform to do so. But there is also, there is the other side of it, which is just the human interest piece of connecting with people I don't know and have never met in person, and reconnecting with people from my earlier career too. So thank you for your time. I've been honored to have you as a guest, Amber.
You're welcome. Thanks, Tim. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm glad. Me too. For our audience, happy 2023. We're recording this in mid-December, but when it'll go live, the end of January, it'll be a new year. I appreciate everyone's support of the People in Fundraising webcast. Amber, thank you for your time today. And here's to a new year ahead of us for all of us. Wishing you good health and fulfillment and success in all parts of your life. Thanks for your support.
Thank you.